User, so we're recording right now, and I want to get. I think we're live. So this is going to be the response of the Q&A session that Jordan Peterson had in Oslo today. So it's 6th of June, 2022, and I just got inspired because I was attending this seminar that he had, and I got inspired to share some of my responses on some of the questions he got. Originally, I thought he was going to have some kind of lecture. That was what I was looking forward to. But then we realized that they were just they were only going to have an a Q&A session, and I wanted to take up the same questions and respond in a bit shorter time than Jordan used. He's very well articulated, this guy, and I do respect him a lot. I do respect his work. I do respect his knowledge. He's quite more knowledgeable than me, but also I believe there's some principles that I know that I got from my mentor John Demartini that kind of goes a little bit deeper than what Jordan Peterson ever um, could go in his speech and his knowledge as it is now. So I just wanted to share my thoughts as I've been studying John Demartini's work for a while now. And the first question was how to master temptation. And what Jordan speaks about there is about finding meaning and planning your life and assessing your life to having meaning in your life and dedicating yourself to having meaning in your life to resist temptation. Like the question didn't go specifically to any kind of, let's say, a specific kind of temptation, if it's alcohol or sex or so it was more a general question like how to handle temptation. And he also mentioned, just as I remember, that there weren't any kind of programs that was evident that would help anybody with alcoholism, and probably which is kind of frustrating because I'm working with this professionally, and there is a type of work that do help people with alcoholism, and that is the process that John Demartini has developed. The addiction process is quite effective to find the unconscious strategies of why you're doing what kind of habit that you're doing that is so called an addiction that you get tempted to, and you don't have the kind of will of mind to conquer that temptation. So the way that I'm looking at it is not that it's really that you get tempted and you're just this innocent little victim of this temptation that gets to you, and this addiction is somewhat kind of let's say illness, so and say, but it's actually more specific than that. It's actually an unconscious strategy that your psyche is using to cover some needs that you have, whether those needs be actually security and safety, whether those needs be unsecurity, which is more drama and adventure orientated, whether those needs be love and intimacy, or other needs that your psyche do need. So if you don't find any, strategy in your life to fulfill those needs that you have as a human being, you're gonna find these unproductive ways that we can call an addiction, which will become a habit for you that will fill those needs for you. So you either run your life consciously by actually, being the leader of your own life and finding, productive ways of covering those needs. If you don't do it, you might be more susceptible to addictive behaviors. But I also do agree with what he was saying, that in order to kind of conquer the temptation, it's also important to have meaning in your life, to be to create, to follow your life around your life purpose, and um, to because we can get in the trap when we're living outside of our journey or our purpose in life. We can get into the trap of getting, seeking pleasures and avoiding pain. But life has two sides. Life has, pleasure and pain, challenges and supports. And if you are on your purpose, you're gonna embrace both of those. You're gonna embrace both sides of life. But if you lack purpose and if you lack meaning in life, you're rather much gonna be, like what can you say, a jellyfish in the ocean, and you're gonna get squashed around by the waves, and you're not too much in control in your life, because whatever life takes you, you go with it, and oh, there's temptation there, there's some temptation there, and you try to seek this fantasy of something that's more good than bad, something more pleasureful than painful, and you're constantly gonna be a victim to your own fantasies, which is these temptations. So my way of handling temptation would be much a more loving approach, rather than just go and find a meaningful life and structure your life around it. That's really important. But you also want to dive a little bit deeper and see those parts of you that get fulfillment of doing whatever behavior that you're doing, that you call an addiction, or that you're temptation or have temptation towards. You want to, find that reason why you're doing it. You want to find the unconscious motive, because if you don't find the unconscious motive, the reason why you're doing what you're doing, that you are calling a temptation and that you're judging as something unproductive, if you don't find the reason, that's constantly going to be there, and you're constantly going to judge yourself and criticize yourself. But there's actually a part of yourself that needs attention and love. And how do you do this? Is actually to just go inside and be diligent to find the reason why you're doing it, by finding the benefits that you get out of it. Let's say I was working with a woman that was, having anxiety. It's maybe not a temptation, but this girl had anxiety and panic attacks and yada yada yada, and she thought that this wasn't her own creation. What we found out, that she was getting control in the family for having the anxiety. So that is just one story that of how the unconscious mind works. Because when she had anxiety, she would get control, but she didn't have a strong enough voice. She didn't have the ability to speak up for herself and set boundaries in her life. That's why the anxiety came in there, to fill those needs. So when she couldn't speak up for herself, the anxiety was there to keep, to, how can you say it, to be the voice for her that was setting those boundaries. And when she realized that, oh, I created this thing, this anxiety, and it's the same way with any addiction. If it's to drugs, alcohol, to sex, to chocolate or whatever, there's a reason why you're doing it, and you have a strategy that fulfills your needs. And when you find that, you can have a much more loving approach, and you can transition that, and you can find other ways of filling the same needs. And when you do that, that's really powerful. That's talking about changing your habits in a loving way, rather than trying to take you up by the neck here and like, oh, discipline myself, and trying to change your habits with that, because that's never going to work. That's really unproductive, and that's why most programs within addiction behavior don't work, because they try to use shame and guilt to change the behavior, and that, as I said, it's not productive. You would love to use love, and that's a much more productive way. Loving and understanding of yourself in order to change any habit. So let's see what's the next question here. The next question that Jordan Peterson got asked in this seminar with the QnA was, should I take an IQ test? Higher IQ test will get you a better job in general. And then he says that, yeah, you should really go and have an IQ test, because you don't want to be stuck in a career path that's not aligned with your strengths. That's basically what he's saying. And he talked a lot about this. The seminar was for 2 hours, and I guess we only spent, or we only had 4 questions here. So he spent quite some time on that. But yeah, so my response on the IQ test. So I don't know if you, a lot of you guys know, but when I was a young child, my teacher told me that I was never going to be able to read, never going to be able to write. And later I got diagnosed with dyslexia. And from that, what was happening was I wasn't too smart. I wasn't too intelligent at school. I didn't have any success at school. It wasn't until I allowed myself to be myself and follow the path of my heart, follow my purpose in life, that I actually found my inner resources, my inner genius, my inner talents, and my inner gifts that was there. I didn't think they were there, but as long as I was giving myself permission to be me and not trying to be someone I was not, my genius unfolded. I don't know really my IQ test. I remember that I was in the Navy and I took this IQ test there, and it was a score from 1 to 10. And if you got lower than 5, you would never be able to join the Navy. And I got 5 exactly, so I got in. So I guess I don't have the highest IQ, but people, and I heard this a lot, people look at me as I'm a genius, but I don't believe it's just because I have a high IQ. I don't believe that at all. I'm just a normal person, but I allowed myself to specialize in what I love to do, and that allowed me to bring the gifts that I have inside to the world. And I believe that is possible for anybody. I don't believe that there's any particular person that's born with more, faculties, mental, physical faculties that other people don't have. In terms, this is important though, in terms of that person's mission in life. You have people that there's this illness that if you get this illness, you basically you grow like 4 times older than all other people. So you basically, when you're 20, you're physiologically you're 70 years old or something like this. And there's people with that have had a tremendous impact on the world and was tremendous fulfilled being in the world even with that illness, because they specialized in the journey and the existential themes of life, and they made a huge career out of that. So who am I to judge people and their faculties, either it's physical with beauty or physical strength or whatever, or mental faculties or other faculties. I don't really believe that that's hindering you in your purpose and mission in life. And if you feel like those faculties are hindering you and your purpose in life, then you can actually balance that. And there's a specific way of doing that, and it's called the Demartini Method. And it's really effective to neutralize those imbalanced perspective. There's nothing in your life that you can't be grateful for. And I believe what Jordan Peterson said about that you do need to choose a career path that's aligned with your mental faculties. I don't really believe that to be true. Like, in a sense, if you're this person that don't want to master your life, master all of the areas of life, then that's maybe true. That's maybe wise to choose something that's more comfortable. But if you truly are dedicated and want to do something extraordinary here in the world, and if you have a dream inside, I don't think you would want to limit yourself by thinking, oh, I have a low IQ, that's why I choose this field. And actually, I do not recommend anybody to take an IQ test, because it limits your mind of the potential of you. And if you allowed you to be you, you would find your own genius. And I'm an evidence of that, and I truly believe that, because if you were looking at me as a 7-year-old, you wouldn't look at me as a genius. You would look at me as that child that can't read, can't write, or can't communicate, and will never be anything in life. But actually, I allowed myself to be me, and I went my path, and I found my genius. And I believe that is in everyone. And I also believe if you give me enough time with, let's say, an 18-year-old that don't feel they are smart enough, and if you give me an hour or maybe 5 hours with them, I will prove to you that that person can become a leader of their life and realize their own genius if you just follow the process of finding your true values, your authentic values in life, and go on that and give yourself permission to be you. So that's my response for that. You just don't take it. Don't be limited by that unless you're this person really seeking safety and you really want to just how you just want to play it safe and you want to play it calm your whole life and don't have any ambition in your life. It's probably wise to see your strength and try to find a career that's within your strength. But I don't believe most people want that, or I wouldn't want that for myself at least. Um, and by the way, who am I to talk about this? So I'm Sindre Jacobsen, and I have 2,000 hours now of clinical work with clients, having above 150 clients. So I'm learning a lot from that. But also, I have a good mentor called John Demartini, and his way of being a pioneer within the field of axiology and the study of values and how that influences human behavior is quite profound. And I do have a lot of knowledge from him, but also I'm just taking my own take on it here as we're just done on the seminar. So the next question was, you talked about the Bible being more than true. Now, this is not my biggest topic. I don't think I'm going to spend too much time on this question, but the thing is that, so what was his response to that? I'm just going to read through it. He talks about that everybody finds the meaning in their narrative and the interpretation of the narrative that's there, and there's a dialectic going on that what he's basically saying, there's some people that have some values and they judge based on those values, and there's people that have the exact opposite sets of values and they judge based on that interpretation, and they interpret the world through those values and through those lenses. That's how people act upon the world and decide upon the world, and how they socially interact in the world, and that's basically what they're saying. And then you have the polar opposite. You have some people dedicated to this, and then you have other people dedicating to destroying what you're dedicating to building, and then you have other people dedicating to building something else, and you have other people dedicated to destroy that. So you have this dialectic going on in the world. And what he didn't mention that I wanted to include on that, because what he said was really powerful, but in addition to that, I wanted to explain that it's actually supposed to be that way. And I believe that maybe of the habit of Jordan Peterson saying to everybody, "Oh, you should be more decent, you should be good." That's also a value judgment that he has. He doesn't understand that there's people in the world that gonna challenge you, and there's people in the world that gonna support you, and you need both in order to grow in your life. You can't have only the supporters, although he wants to have more supporters than challengers. And it's actually the challengers that makes him grow as a person, that makes you think in a better way and articulate himself better. And it's the challengers that actually make him rich, because he wouldn't be as popular if it wasn't for all these challengers coming in there and making tension in whatever theme that he was talking about. So I don't think he shows much appreciation to these haters that it's really made him who he is today. Like there was a lot of people in this seminar room on a holiday here in Norway. It's called Pinse, so it's første pinsedag, and it's a common holiday here in Norway. So Uh, and yeah, there was a lot of people there, and he wouldn't be that popular if, if he wouldn't engage people in that way. And it's the challengers that, you know, that ignited that fire for him. Now back to the question. The question was about the Bible, more than true. The Bible is more than true. That's, he said that in a bunch of occasion, and the question was, what do you really mean about that? And then he's talking about there's these narratives of how people interpret the world, and he sees the Bible as something that is inherently something that was building these narratives that people perceive the world. And I don't really find that to be true. There's actually nothing in the Bible that is original. You can actually trace every single sentence in the Bible to pre-Christian um, philosophers, and you can actually trace a lot of it back to Egyptian mythology. Even marriage is an Egyptian ritual of where you can research this. Isis and Osiris, and everything that's involved in the marriage ritual is something that comes from an Egyptian celestial mystery that's created as a history in the world of the Christian religion. I also wanted to point out some other things. He says, he talks about the dialectic, and I do see that to be true. There's a dialectic going on. There's people dedicated to one thing, and there's people dedicated to other things, and they're gonna be in conflict. And the wisdom is actually to be able to integrate those paradoxes. That's where you lead, because if you can't integrate paradoxes, you're gonna be emotionally attached to one of the others, as we've seen with Jordan Peterson. And that's where I believe he has potential of learning something from John Demartini. Because with John's work and what he found out by studying physics is that you have challenge and supporters. And you're going to have benefits and drawbacks. Just like a magnet have positive and negative sides, you're going to have that in your life. And I don't think Jordan acknowledges that a lot. I'm kind of avoiding the question here. If the Bible being more than true. So, yeah, as I said, there's not much in the Bible that's original to the Bible. You can find a lot of those teachings and writings earlier than the Bible. That was from philosophers that was, born before Christ supposedly was born. So you can check that up while studying comparative religion, and also to study Aristotle and all these people more extensively. The last question was hate speech is growing here in Norway, and how do we preserve free speech? Now, I don't think I have too much to share on that. I think Jordan Peterson did a great job on articulating himself on those questions. And I really liked what he said about it's not the victims that can decide what is hate speech or not. So who decides what is hate speech or not? Because we don't want to listen to some victims that's hurt. Because, and I totally agree with this, because there's people out there that call themselves victim, but they have a finger in the game. It's always a finger in the game when a person. Oh, that's actually a Norwegian metaphor. I don't know if you use that in English, anyways. But you always have some accountability, right? You're never a victim of circumstances. If you want to be the victim of circumstances, you can be that. It's really easy to be that. The masses are that. They think that the world just happens to them. Let's take this example of the jellyfish that's in the ocean and just gets thrown around. But that's not the truth of who you are. That's not the truth of your potential as a human being. You have the potential to be the creator of your own life. You are the creator of your own life. But you have to take accountability for what you're creating in your life. there's a dynamic going on in every situation, and there's no coincidence that something's happened to you. And if you feel that people are bullying you, well, you ought to look, where are you bullying other people? And there's a reflection going on. And if you don't solve this dynamic, you're never going to grow past your hurtness. And whatever you're not grateful for is going to be emotional baggage. And whatever you turn into gratitude, whatever you can say thank you for, that happened in your life, you're actually going to turn into fuel for your life. So you actually decide that. And there's methods and processes that can help you with that. And I do that professionally. I do that every day, all day. It works. And yeah, there's definitely ways to take emotional baggage and transforming into something that you can find wisdom in, something that you can find strength from. And I never experienced anybody that experienced anything that didn't, that could do that. So you just need to understand human behavior through the lens of a more interdisciplinary approach than what is commonly taught out there. So when you see psychology and human behavior from a more interdisciplinary approach, you include physics, mathematics, and these other disciplines that's more of a hard science basis. You can find questions to derive from there to balance those things. So that was the victim thing. Don't listen to victims. Don't listen to victims. There's a victim story. Like, professionally, I help people that have a victim story, that have a trauma story, and transform that into a story of wisdom and light and gratitude. And that's what I do for a living. So you can't convince me otherwise, because I've seen it too many times. And you maybe have a situation that you feel victimized by, and I promise you, you can, if you go around and being bitter of that situation in your life, that's you drinking the poison, expecting the other person to die, and it's unproductive. So be accountable and balance your mind, balance your perception, and and also see if you get unconscious strategies of being in the victim story, because people they have unconscious motives. That's just how human behavior works. And then, I really love what he said there, that you need to let people speak, because when they speak, they can think freely. And when they can think freely, they can think, productive. So maybe avoid some catastrophes. And I definitely agree with that. Why would you ever think about, hindering free speech for anybody? It's a stupid thought. So let's free speech be free speech. And that's my take on that. I think as a ending here, I think Jordan Peterson is an amazing guy. I love to learn from him, and I loved his session today. It was cool. We had a little incident there, someone passing out or having some, seizures or something. So the night was cool. I would love to speak with Jordan on a one-to-one basis, have a dinner or lunch with him. So if you ever hear this, please invite me, and I would love to do that. So with this, I'm signing off here, and hope you got something out of this. If you weren't on the lecture or the Q&A session that he was, maybe this didn't make too much sense for you, but for you guys that were there, hope this could fill you in on some places where I see that Jordan Peterson is lacking some insights, and I hope that gave whatever more food for thoughts for you guys. Okay, thank you. Bye.